So this Purdue game, I predicted Alabama was going to win, and I thought in large part that was going to be because I thought that Alabama had success and was going to have success from an athleticism standpoint, and I thought that Alabama was just the better team. And for the most part, I don't think that I was wrong, but I do think that Purdue had some things that Alabama was just not ready for. And in large part, this was Trey Kaufman-Renn. In the write-up that I did, I undersold him a bit. The thread that I put out on Twitter, I undersold his ability, and part of it was because of what we had seen last season. And Nate even mentioned this, right? They were not expecting somebody that was going to dominate them in the post when they didn't have Cliff. And Trey did. Kaufman-Renn absolutely dominated this game for Purdue and was a mismatch for anybody not named Cliff Hamori for Alabama. He ended up with 26 points on 23 or 24 shots. The only thing he was bad at in the game was free throws. He just was a very elite scorer down low. He drew 5 fouls. He had 4 assists. He just kind of did it all. And the only person that really could match up with him was Cliff Hamori. And Cliff in this game, to his credit, blocked 4 shots, got 7 rebounds. He ended up getting 4 fouls, right? And those 4 fouls ended up being a major issue in this game because when Cliff was not on the floor, Alabama just did not have an answer for Kaufman-Renn. And it ended up being a large issue in this game. I was under the assumption, partially due to what we saw last season and the depth that we have at that position, that center depth and forward depth was not going to be a problem. But Grant Nelson really could not match up to Kaufman-Renn in this game. Not to say Grant couldn't in the future, because I know that he held his own against Armando Bacot in the Elite Eight, Sweet 16 game. But in this game, he just was not the player that he needed to be against Kaufman-Renn, at least from a defensive perspective. Aiden Sherrill was a non-factor. He only played 2 minutes in this game. And Jaron Stevenson, and we'll talk about him here in a minute, Jaron Stevenson almost is unplayable currently. Currently, Nate Oates is trying to play him at the 3, and I don't know if it's partially because they think his skill set is there, because they like playing the taller lineup, they like his defensive ability, or what, but his inability to make a shot makes him almost unplayable currently. It's a situation where, if he's making the open shot, then obviously you can play him, but currently this season he doesn't have a single 3 made. And it's very clear, and it's starting to get to a point where people are just going to leave him open. It's getting that bad, right? So that's the big problem with the lineup that Alabama's been rolling out there. And that really, those 4 guys, the only one being able to really slow down Kaufman-Renn being Cliff Hamori was a big problem in this game. Alabama, by and large, didn't do terrible at stopping the rest of the guys. Fletcher Loyer did not play great in the first matchup with Alabama last season, and we talked about that. Fletcher Loyer played much better in this game. He hit some really big shots, including a 3 that was a really nice play drawn up to end the half. And I thought that he really made shots that, when they mattered, he made the big shots. Braden Smith was what we expected, but he wasn't super efficient, right? Alabama honestly played Braden Smith about as well as you could hope. He was 6 of 18 from 2, 0 of 4 from 3. He got 6 rebounds. He got 10 assists, but that's really who Braden Smith is. He did a really good job facilitating for the rest of the team, but he was very inefficient in the shots he took. So that was something that Alabama at least did a good job at defending him. He made some tough shots, but I thought that, you would, if you give me that stat line from Braden Smith coming into this game, I would have completely taken it. The problem where Alabama, had is we really just underestimated a couple of guys, and Nate mentioned it in the postgame. We talked about Kaufman-Renn, Alabama underestimating his ability to just, kind of take guys one-on-one. Nate was talking about not having planned to need to double the post. And in this case, we probably needed to. But the other guy that Alabama completely underestimated was C.J. Cox. And he's a freshman. And coming out, he's a bit of a shooter, but you don't think that he's going to be the guy that can just light you on fire. And he did. Alabama gets up 6 in this game in the second half. And then Purdue proceeds to go on a 13-0 run to go up 7. And in large part, that was due to C.J. Cox hitting 3 threes in a row. And he was 3 of 3 from deep. And that, just stretch run right there was a huge problem for Alabama. Obviously, when you're in an opposing arena, momentum is a massive deal. And it really felt like if Alabama could make a shot when it was up at 6, Alabama had the chance to kind of bust the game open and kind of put Purdue at arm's length because they were having success with Kaufman-Renn, but Alabama finally had figured out their three-point shot. In the first half, Alabama only shoots 1 of 9, but in the second half, they're 8 of 20. And earlier in that half, they were actually even a little better than that. And it really felt like Alabama was going to have Purdue at arm's length. And then Cox hit those big 3 threes, and Purdue's all of a sudden up. There's a questionable lack of timeout from Nate Oates. We've talked a lot about that with Nate Oates not wanting to take timeouts. In my opinion, he took it a shot too late. If he takes it when they're down 4, I think it makes a much bigger deal. But then they hit another shot and we go down 7, and by that point, the crowd's just completely into it. And I understand Nate's point of wanting to let the team get out of it themselves and all different things. But at that point in the momentum of this game, I think you had to take the timeout. If this was at home, I think you could live with them hitting the shot because your crowd potentially could get you, will you back into it. But on the road, in my opinion, you have to take the timeout there. So in my opinion, I think this game says a lot about the lack of just offense that Alabama was able to create at moments. You didn't get the offense that you wanted out of Grant Nelson or out of Mark Sears. Grant Nelson wasn't bad in this game. Obviously, he has a double-double, but wasn't absolutely the best. Mark Sears was very inefficient, 1 of 6 from 3, 5 of 15 from the field. He has 15 points, but again, it was a very inefficient 15 points. Really, the bright spot in this game from Alabama is LeBaron Philon, and we've talked a lot about him, but Philon was a huge bright spot in this game. At moments, it really felt like he was the only guy on Alabama that could do what he wanted to do and could create success for himself. Driving to the basket, hitting threes. That on the broadcast they were talking about how he wasn't a great three-point shooter. So far that season, he goes 3 of 4. So you'll absolutely love to see that. And I think that he's really the bright spot in this game for Alabama. Obviously, Cliff was the other bright spot from a defensive perspective. And then for me, the last person, and he didn't get enough minutes in my opinion, is Mo D. Mo D ends up having just over 9 minutes in this game. But in those 9 minutes, he ends up drawing 4 fouls. He got 3 rebounds. He hit all 4 free throws. He blocked a shot. I just personally think that he has to get more minutes than 9. The way he impacts the game when he's in is absolutely massive. And I think that he has to, be around the 15-minute mark every game, no matter what's going on, because of his ability to impact on the defensive end, rebound, and be physical with the ball. Again, like I said, he draws 4 fouls when he's in. And he, other than Cliff, was the only one to even have a 0 plus-minus, right? Modi has a 0 plus-minus. Cliff has a positive plus-minus at plus 11. Everyone else on the team has a negative plus-minus, with the worst 2 being Jaron and Aiden Holloway. I don't think Aiden Holloway played terribly in this game. He goes 1 of 4 from deep. Would have liked to have seen him hit an extra one of those or 2 because some of those were open, but he really finished decently well around the rim. He had 2 assists. He did draw 2 fouls. I didn't dislike how Aiden played in this game, but, obviously the plus-minus number looks pretty bad. So, obviously those can be deceiving, but that's what I look at, right? In my opinion, what this game tells you is Alabama very sorely needs Chris Youngblood. They need somebody that can really fill in the three. In my opinion, Alabama is going to have to start playing a lineup of Mark Sears, LeBaron Philon, Darion Reed, Grant Nelson, and then Cliff Omori. That needs to be your starting lineup for now. And then as soon as Chris Youngblood comes out, you swap out Darion Reed for Chris Youngblood. I think that Latrell Wrightsell can come off the bench currently, but I think that the two-way style of LeBaron Philon and what he gives you currently, he has to start. He's giving you just too much on the offense and defensive ends to not start in the rest of the season, at least for the foreseeable future. And, you can readdress as needed. But currently, I think LeBaron Philon has to start. So that's what I would look at moving forward. We'll talk about the Illinois game coming up and, how we stack up with Illinois. But my starting lineup for that game, like I said, is Mark Sears, LeBaron Philon, Darion Reed, Grant Nelson, Cliff Omori. The Jaron Stevenson experiment at the 3, in my opinion, needs to go away. And when he gets a little bit more confident and is hitting more shots, if you want to go back to running him at the 3 until Chris Youngblood comes back, sure. But in my opinion, the experiment has failed, and we need to kind of go away from it because currently it's been a major problem, and he's a liability out there currently. So that's what happened in this game. Like I said, we'll address the Illinois game here coming up, but that is what happened in the Purdue game. Alabama loses this game, and, we move on to the next game. It's okay that we lost this game. It's not going to hurt any of our chances to be a top seed, to advance in the tournament, to win the SEC, to win the Thanksgiving tournament. None of those things are out of you for losing this game, but, you have your work cut out ahead of you.